Hi, I'm Steve Dyer, and I'm in the pen today with our little dog Sadie. She's a cutie, isn't she? And our Mustang Silver, and they're going to help me illustrate something about how we view animals. There are a lot of different ways in the world that people view animals. We live here on the Navajo reservation. The very traditional people here have a view of animals that is a combination of pantheism and polytheism, and it's its own thing. Hindus, another example, view animals in a different way. But the way I want to talk about the two most prevalent views here in America, and I'm assuming that you are an animal lover or you would not be watching this video. The first way, and the way that is growing in popularity, is the evolutionary view of animals. And in that view, all living beings evolved from one single cell, and so we humans are simply a little bit more evolved than the dog or the horse. And in that view, the animals have the same rights as people and should be viewed in the same way. The classic quote from that is the lady who started the PETA organization, and I'm holding it here so I get it right. She said, "A rat is a pig, is a dog, is a boy." And that pretty much sums up, I think, the evolutionary view. And in a way, I think probably some animals have been helped by that view. Maybe some seals and whales and things like that have been saved. The other way of viewing animals, which I believe is the correct way, is the biblical view. And the Bible says that God created the animals after their kind, and then He created humans in His image. So we humans are different. Because we are created in the image of God, we have an eternal soul. And then He gave us humans dominion, is the biblical word, but just think manager or responsibility. He gave us responsibility to manage the animals and the environment. And so when I look at these animals, I think about my responsibility to them. And I think about what God expects of me. And I started off saying this is our dog and our horse, but really, in reality, this is God's dog. This is the Creator's horse. This is the Creator's environment that we live in, and we are managers of that. Sometimes we've done well, and sometimes not so well. But let me illustrate this like this. Let's suppose that I had an old horse that was eaten up with cancer and was in pain. As a biblical view of that, I would euthanize that horse, because I would think that would be the humane thing to do to put that horse out of its suffering. Now, in that same scenario, if it were a human, if it were one of my relatives, I absolutely would not do that, because that person is created in the image of God, and the Bible says that God numbers our days. It's not up to me to make that decision, because I don't have dominion over the human like I do over the horse. And one last illustration I'll give you, and this one's from a movie, so it's a fictional story, but I think it'll work well. It's from one of my favorite movies, True Grit. The last scene in the movie, the heroine of the movie has been bitten by a rattlesnake. And so the old crusty marshal throws her on her little black Mustang pony, and they start running as fast as they can to get to the doctor to save her life. And after a while, the girl says to the marshal, she says, "Stop, stop, you're going to kill the horse." And the marshal says to her, "It's him or you." And then, as it turns out, the horse gives his life, and the girl's life is saved. So to me, that's a biblical view of how the relationship between animals and horses. I love my dog, all right, but if I had to choose between saving my dog's life or saving my granddaughter's life, I wouldn't have to stop and think about that for a second, because my granddaughter has an eternal soul and my dog does not. So I hope that helps you in how we view animals and what our responsibility is, because we are stewards. We are managers of all of God's creation.